Donald Trump is doing what we predicted, what he wanted to do, and LA is the target. He wants to turn away from all of his troubles, the economic, the allies, all that's the illegality, the corruption, the grift. And now he wants a villain, and he wants the blue state, a blue city, a blue governor to be the villain. And so he's deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles because he has to, not because he's just choosing to at all. He's being very responsible and not wasting what will likely be hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in the end at all. It's necessary, everyone, because there were protests over the weekend. Now, the vast majority of the protests and the protesters have been perfectly peaceful. But of course, when you get thousands of people together, there will be some people who throw things. There were some Waymos that were burned. And that is the pretext necessary for Donald Trump to invade LA. And God only knows by tomorrow we'll have an aircraft carrier being towed down Century Boulevard. But in any event, for those of you who haven't been following this, partially because for the most part around the country, unless you're really tapped into local efforts to oppose ICE invading communities, you might not be that knowledgeable about what's going on. So we're gonna quickly catch you up and then we'll jump into all the developments and everything. Basically, Friday is when it started. So there were ICE raids on some retail establishments in different parts of LA. LA's a big place, complicated, but there was a Home Depot in Paramount. There were rumors there was gonna be an ICE raid there. The mayor of Paramount, that area, said that there was a DHS office, the ICE agents were gonna be staging at. There was also rumors of an ICE raid on a meatpacking plant. And understand the context over the past weeks and months is there have been some raids in different areas. And in some cases, there's been local pushback against it. And so that's basically what happened here. ICE was coming in like full military gear, military vehicles, all tacked out to take day laborers from outside of a Home Depot. And as we get into everything that comes from this, that's already come over the weekend, everything that will develop over the next few days, maybe the next few weeks, I just want you to remember, they came in like they were trying to take Fallujah because they needed to get some day laborers. And they will shout, as they always do, worst of the worst, criminals. It's busboys and people with an expertise in hanging drywall. That is literally what they came in to deport. And people don't want that. These are their family members, their community members, their colleagues, coworkers, associates. And so they pushed back against it, including politicians in the area, by the way. So an assembly member who actually represents that Paramount area that we talked about said the community is coming out strong to show that they're not welcome, ICE, in our community, not in my district. Let's go, let's get out of here. And they could have done that. None of this had to happen if Donald Trump and Stephen Miller hadn't been so nonstop 24/7 horny to deport people. Stephen Miller, obviously, his wife just went with Elon Musk, so he's gonna lash out the way he always does when women reject him. He's going to take it out on black and brown people around him. And so thus the violence. And so at Home Depot, there were protests. They began peacefully. Officers started flashbanging people, throwing pepper balls at the crowd. And so some of the protesters threw rocks and other objects. We'll just call those weapons of mass destruction from now on. They were trying to murder millions of cops simultaneously. One person drove their vehicle toward the ICE agents, which if you're a protester, don't use your vehicle as a weapon. Sarcastically, if you're an ICE or LAPD or National Guard, feel free to. And they're doing it constantly. The video is out there, we can't use it, it's local news. But they were trying to run people down, they were trampling people with their horses. That's all fine, everybody. But the protesters shouldn't, to be clear. We should have at least two standards, if not more. And so that had mostly seemingly died down. But the issue is that there are people, and we're gonna talk more about Trump in a bit, that they don't want this to die down, okay? It's not that these raids are so vital that they have to go forward at all costs. It's that he wants something that makes those opposing the rise of fascism in America seem like the villains. And so even though things were 99% peaceful and were in fact dying down, Donald Trump chose to pour gas on the fire. And we'll get to that part, but let's talk about the early phase of this, JR. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. Look, there's these calls, as we saw from Stephen Miller to Tom Homan and all these guys that are part of their deportation agenda to ramp it up. There's supposed to be these quotas we were hearing about, or even his displeasure with the numbers of people that are being deported. Again, with zero due process, coming into people's immigration hearings, peacefully doing the things that they always preached before, saying, if you just do these things the right way, that's the kind of immigration we want. Of course, supporters of that have also decided to forget that base non-principle that they kept pushing as they've tried to escalate these things. The rest of that one judge, every step that they're taking is to try to anger enough people that still want their freedoms and their rights and their constitutional rights that have been given to us, to finally rise up and say, we have no other choice but to finally stand in front of you to keep you from doing these illegal activities. Because our leadership, apparently there's some of these folks that we voted for aren't in that business. They're in the business of trying to position themselves for some kind of midterm or presidential run later. That's what they're doing. So when you've got no leadership in positions of power to do something against the folks who are violating the Constitution and our rights on a daily basis, people take to the streets eventually. And once they take the streets, of course, that's how this whole thing works. So once they take the streets, Donald Trump can call and say that all these things are happening that aren't happening. They can begin these violent attacks on peaceful citizens and then call them unhinged and rioters and protesters and insurrectionists. They're standing in the streets protecting their communities. The very things that all these MAGA folks who like to cling to their Second Amendment guns always talked about. But when folks that aren't the right color or the right stance that they always thought was the right one begin to do exactly that without the guns, then there comes suddenly rocks and bricks and flashbangs and smoke bombs that the LAPD and other folks launched at them are returned to them. Suddenly they're the aggressors. I think enough people in America understand what's actually going on, and the rest of them are going along because this is what they did want.
Yeah, and I think the right wingers, they're gonna listen to Trump and Stephen Miller's interpretations, Pete Hegseth or whatever, and more than usual, they'll do that because they see the chaos in the Trump administration and it makes them uncomfortable. They can't admit it, but it makes them uncomfortable. They like right wingers 401ks have gone down too. They don't like that. They're feeling itchy. They're feeling antsy. They see Donald Trump and Elon Musk feuding. They don't like that at all. They desperately want a distraction. They want an easy, simple, not true, but easy villain. Okay, and so that's what Donald Trump is going to give them to distract them. And it's super easy. You throw the National Guard into the streets and every shot of that is gonna look like a crisis. Doesn't matter what the protesters are doing. Protesters can do nothing. Oh my God, there's people in like tax suits and riot gear. It looks serious. Well, yeah, of course, because they're decked out again like they're invading Iraq or something. It's like they're trying to take down Helm's Deep. Yeah, it looks pretty serious when you choose to do that. Just to be clear. And again, some people did burn some Waymos or whatever. So that provides imagery that is probably playing literally right now if you turn on Fox News, just to be clear about that. And look, people in the Apollo racers talking about the Australian reporter who's reporting live on camera. Cop in the background turns his gun to, just was aiming right at her, wanted to shoot a woman in the back and did. He was shot her in the leg. On video, we can't play it, it's local news. But just bear in mind, there is violence. They're the ones doing the vast majority of it. And we'll talk more about the hypocrisy of which this has as much as it's chock full of hypocrisy from the right.